Okay, so now I want to talk about passing class objects as parameters to functions. So I just want you to remember we have inventory.h, right, our header file, an inventory item class with 4 data members. It contains 2 constructors. It contains 4 get functions or getters, and it contains 1 big set function instead of having 4 separate set functions. The get functions, these ones are written inline, and then in inventory item.cpp we have the code for the 2 constructors, the set inventory item, and one of the getters. I just moved that here as a demonstration in an earlier video. So now I'm going to look at my driver program, which is my main program. And in here you can see I've got an object or a variable called part declared to be an inventory item. So part's going to have 4 different members, and well, 4 data members: part, number, description, on hand, and price, and it's going to have all these function members packaged with it. All right, so I'm going to call one function called store values. Now notice I just passed the whole object out to the function. And if I look at this, it is going to declare some local variables. So the user enters the part number, the user enters the description, the user enters the quantity on hand, and the user enters the price. And then we call the set inventory item function, and we pass all 4 of these user entered variables to set inventory. Now recall, set inventory is going to set part number to the first parameter, description to the second, on hand to the third, and price to the last. And so part number into the first, description into the second, quantity into the third, and price. So this is actually setting this, all of the data members, right, based on user input. So this has to be a reference parameters. Same rules apply for reference parameters with class objects as every other variable. We're storing information in item, and we want to return it back out so it can be used in main. And then we're going to call a function called show values. So if we go to show values, this is just kind of a display function. We pass the inventory item object into this function, and it just basically displays everything. Okay? Extra semicolon there. All right. And this is just how functions work. If it's just being passed in to be used, you make it a value parameter. If it's being updated or changed, you make it a reference parameter. But as we've seen with earlier data structures, this is really using a value parameter here can be wasteful. We know that value parameters make a copy in memory. So when you have larger objects, it's going to make a copy of all of the data members, which can take space and it can take time, so it's not considered good programming practice. So one thing we can do is make it a reference parameter, because a reference parameter really just shares the memory location between the main program and the function. So that will save on space and time, but there's a problem here by making it reference. By making it reference, somebody could actually go in and update something. They could call the set function if they wanted to and change things around. And that's not really what we want to happen here. We don't want someone to change it. Now, if it's value, and if they do happen to change it, that new value will not be returned. But when it's reference, it will be. So often what we use in classes is a constant reference parameter. Reference, so it'll save on space and time by using the same memory location. And constant, to denote to a programmer that if they call this function, the object will not be changed. Okay? So when you're working with larger data structures like class objects, you should either have reference parameters or constant reference parameters. You really shouldn't be using value parameters anymore. So just be sure, if you have constant reference in the heading, you also have to have constant reference in the prototype as well. Okay, And then we can go ahead and run our program. And everything should run fine. Always a good idea to check. And everything looks good.